Are we going? Okay. Hi, I'm Lisa Eaton from bowtie.com. It's kind of slow on the bow ties right now, so I've kind of shifted. I got a request from the Kennebunk Fire and Rescue to make some face masks to go over their n95 masks, and a few people have asked me for instructions on how to put those together. Kennebunk Fire and Rescue wanted them to be 3 layers of fabric, so I'm going to show you how I make that. Here is a finished mask, which has three tucks in it, elastic to go around your ears, and there you go. It's not too uncomfortable, I guess. So this is what I'm making, and then what I'm going to show you. A couple of things I wanted to remember to say to you is, first of all, if you're doing this, you do not need a fancy sewing machine. You just need one that does a straight stitch. You need an iron, a steam iron, if that's what you have. I happen to have a flat iron, and I just use a spray bottle for steam. Pre-wash your fabric, because these are going to need to be washed and bleached over and over again. So pre-wash your fabric so it doesn't shrink after it's been made into what we're making. I'm going to show you how to set this up so you can make multiple masks in the most efficient fashion. What else? I think that's going to be it. So I use a rotary cutter and a mat to cut. If you don't have these, you can certainly use just scissors and make a pattern out of a piece of paper, piece of newspaper or a piece of scrap paper. Just make a square that's 7.5 inches square. So, but if you have a rotary mat, my ruler is 6 inches wide, so I'm going to set it 1.5 inches from the cut edge. I have the fabric folded so that the pretty sides are kissing, so it's right sides together in sewing terminology. And I'm going to cut a 7.5 inch strip, and then another one. And the beauty of having it so that right sides are together is you don't even have to unstack them when you're ready to stitch. They are already right sides together, which is how you're going to stitch them. So now I'm just going to cut this. Again, 7.5 inches. And I would continue cutting more, but this is just trying to be quick for a demonstration. While I'm at the cutting mat, I'm also going to cut a strip that's 1.5 inches wide. And that's what's going to be used to make the channel along the edge of the masks. So now we're going to go to the ironing board. We're going to ignore the ringing phone. And if you have a steam iron, this is when you'd use it. I use a spray bottle because my iron is a flat iron. And I'm going to turn under 1/4 inch all the way along the edge here. If I were doing this for real, I would go all the way to the end, but I'm just trying to show you quickly. I actually have one all set up already. So you would do that all the way to the end. Now we're going to go over to the sewing machine. And these are the ones that I just cut. I have some other squares that are just scrap fabric. They're also cut in 7.5 inch squares. So what I'm going to do is, I have my sewing machine all threaded. I have black thread in the top and invisible thread, which is like hair, in the bottom. But you can use any color thread. It doesn't need to match. This is, you know, we're fighting an enemy here. Doesn't matter what color thread. So I'm going to take 2 of these, which are already stacked right sides together. And because I want a 3rd layer of fabric, I'm going to take just a piece of another square that's just a piece of scrap fabric that I had cut earlier. And I'm going to stack the 3rd piece on top. And with the edge of the presser foot on the cut edge of the fabric, I'm just going to stitch down. And then I'm going to take another pair that's already paired, put another piece of scrap fabric on top, and again, I'm just going to run it right in. This butting up against each other like this is what makes it go really fast. And then I'm going to trim the threads. Going to flip it over, and now I'm going to stitch, this side is stitched, now I'm just going to stitch the parallel side. Again, keeping the presser foot against the cut edge of the fabric. Right into the next one. And I do kind of want to line up the squares here. So there we go. Now I'm going to trim again. When I made these for Kennebunk Fire and Rescue, I had 50 of them, and then I cut them all apart. And then they're in a stack to go back to the ironing board. And now that I'm here, I'm going to turn them right side out. And you can see I could turn it right side out. That would be the two insides. I kind of want the pretty side out, so now I have a seam here and a seam here. And I'm going to again give a spray. Again, if you have a steam iron, you're all set. And I'm just going to flatten that seam. And then turn it so that that seam, there's going to be one at the bottom and one at the top. And then I'm going to press this whole square flat. The square became a rectangle because I just took a ½ inch off of it. But these two are the cut edges. Now what I'm going to do is put the tucks into it. So this is my 6-inch ruler. This is now 7 inches. I want to get it down to 3 inches or approximately 3 inches. So I'm going to put the tucks in, starting at about an inch, inch and a quarter down. I'm going to make a fold. And this doesn't have to be perfect. This is, you can guesstimate. You can make it perfect if you want. I'm kind of in a let's get this thing done place with these. So I've got this. That's about 3 inches. And I want it so that when I fold this top piece back, there's a little space between the top of this tuck and this sewn edge here. So now I'm going to steam these into place. And if you were so inclined, you could pin it at this point. I'm lazy about pinning, so I'm not going to. I got a little wobble in this one. I'm not sure how particular to be now that somebody's watching. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to go stitch these edges down. Back to the sewing machine. And I'm stitching again. It doesn't matter. See how this is in the middle of the sandwich, the little blue piece. It doesn't matter. I'm going to use the edge of the pretty cut fabric. Whoop. And trim off the fabric. Trim off the threads. Now I'm going to use that piece where I pressed the 1/4 inch under. And just to make it easier on my eye, I'm just going to trim off that bit of blue. So there's the folded edge and the cut edge on this piece of trim. I'm going to lay this over, keeping the cut edges even, and it's extended about 1/4 inch above the mask. Now I'm going to put it under the presser foot, and again keeping the edge of the presser foot with the cut edge of the fabric. Now, because this seam is going to be stressed by the elastic pulling on it, I'm going to backstitch. I'm going to backstitch a number of times just to make sure it holds really tight there. Now I'm going to come down here and just estimate about another 1/4 inch extension and fold that under. And then I'm going to do the opposite side, same thing all over again. Again, trimming that off. Fold a 1/4 inch under. Start the stitching. Trim, trim. Now I'm going to take my shears and do a little trimming. If you can get close to this, John, that'll be helpful. I'm going to trim, I'm just going to snip off the corner here and here, and then trim sort of close, maybe 1/8 inch from the stitching. Do that on both ends. Now I'm going to go back to the ironing board. And now I'm going to pull that so that these little pieces are extended. I'm going to use the iron and just iron the corners down. And then I'm going to flip this way, and I'm trying to pull it, like I don't want any lag on the back side, so I'm going to pull it pretty snug and press it into place. And you could, again, you could pin this down if you were so inclined. I'm not. And this is going to form the channel where the elastic is going to go. And if you don't have elastic, you can just make straps out of fabric, because elastic may be not a part of your household. So now I'm back to the sewing machine. And again, I'm going to do, this is again where the elastic is going to be pulling. So what I want to do is give a nice, a lot of back stitching here, just to really secure it. And if I were doing a bunch of these in a line, you can see where butting it up against the next one would make it go much faster rather than doing all this clipping and trimming. If you do it just in step by step, it goes much more quickly. Okay. Okay, and the last step is to take elastic, and I have 1/4 inch elastic that is cut in 10-inch pieces. I'm going to put a safety pin into the end of the elastic, and I'm going to put it into one of these channels. Now the trick about getting it through the channel is it wants to get caught in that piece that's turned under here. To battle that, I take a little pair of scissors. You could use a knitting needle, but I have the scissors up against the piece that's folded under on the tape. So now I can just run my safety pin up along the scissors, and it doesn't get caught. magically. Ta-da! Okay. There's one. I'm going to do it on this side. There we go. And then it's just a matter of tying a knot in the elastic, just like you would a balloon. And I try to move the knot to the end because Kennebunk Fire and Rescue said 10 inches was the length. For me, it feels a little short on my ears, but they wanted it snug. And I will fashion model this for you. There it is. There we go. And that's the finished mask. Hope it helps. Peace out, baby.